Hi everybody, my name is Olivia Santos. I'm a Bio 113 honors student with Professor Barba for the fall 2021 semester. This project is going over the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and how and why it occurs. The National Geographic recently created a new encyclopedic entry about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, also known as the GPGP, including its causes and its effect on marine life. The GPGP is a large collection of trash and marine debris in the Pacific Ocean. There are 5 other garbage patches in our oceans, but the GPGP is the largest one. In Bio 113, we have studied how human activity can affect the environment. This has sparked my interest in expanding my studies to larger sources of human pollution, more specifically to the GPGP. One of the overarching themes of the Bio 113 course is human interaction with the natural world. So this project is mainly going to focus on how humans have negatively impacted the oceans. Later in the course, we will study natural habitat disturbance and organismal distribution, so this project will relate to that as well. If there is more awareness about the GPGP and other garbage patches that are similar, then pollution may decrease over the next decade or two, further improving marine life. The GPGP was founded by Charles Moore in 1997, who was sailing from Hawaii to California, crossing the North Pacific subtropical gyre. Moore now raises awareness for the patch through his own foundation called the Algalita Marine Research Foundation. In 2014, Moore and his team set out on an expedition and used aerial drones to assess the trash, which consisted of 100 times more plastic than previously measured in weight. The North Pacific Subtropical Convergence Zone links the span of the GPGP. This zone is where the southern water, which is warmer, meets the northern water from the Arctic, which is cooler. This zone also acts as a highway for ocean debris to travel from one patch to another. The North Pacific Subtropical Gyre is formed by 4 ocean currents, all rotating clockwise at the center of the GPGP. Once trash is trapped in the center of the gyre, it is difficult to move. The center of the gyre is calm and stable compared to the ocean currents surrounding it, which are stronger. The marine debris contained in the GPGP are made up of plastic, fishing nets, and other non-biodegradable items such as glass and styrofoam. For this project, an interview was conducted between myself and a physical oceanographer who has worked locally in Dorchester County. A total of 12 questions were asked, focusing on his experience in oceanography and his professional opinions about the GPGP. The answers to the questions asked in the interview will be used to evaluate how the patch may have formed and what its outlook is for the future. What will also be evaluated after the interview and various research efforts is what is being done to clean up the trash and raise more awareness about the various garbage patches in our oceans, especially the GPGP. The interview was divided into 3 categories of questions: experience background, education background, and professional opinions. I interviewed Bill Boycourt on November 16, 2021, and he is a physical oceanographer. Mr. Boycourt started in this field at 29 years old and was in the field for 40 years, although the past few years he has been retired. He was inspired by oceanography, his major in physics, geophysics, and he has always loved the ocean. The most challenging aspect of his job was the unfun portion for the constant need of money and waiting for results to be published, although he states that he was lucky enough to have the fund availability that he did have. The most rewarding aspect of his job was being out in the ocean and going to sea and finding new things to discover. Bill also stated that his job was always informative, and he found the estuaries to be especially interesting to study. Mr. Boycourt studied as an undergrad in his hometown in Massachusetts, where he majored in physics. He then attended Johns Hopkins to study oceanography and later began teaching at Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland. He received specialized training in grad school for certain techniques used to study oceanography. He recalled using specialized training on these gliders that were sent out to sea and how they were complicated to use. These gliders are known as underwater autonomous vehicles. They would send them out to sea and bring them back to study oceanic trends. The picture in this slide is an example of one of these gliders used today. In relation to human pollution affecting the GPGP, a lot of the trash accumulates on the surface of the ocean. It may have originated in Rhode Island, moving towards the Bermuda and then towards the Gulf Stream. The convergent flow in the ocean also plays a big role in the movement of trash. Most of the trash is consisted of plastics. He recalled times when he was on an ocean vessel and the occasional styrofoam cup would float by, which was weird being in the middle of a vast ocean. A lot of garbage is thrown out of research vessels while at sea. One way that we can help the GPGP in its future effectively is to prevent pollution of our oceans. There are people and organizations working on collecting plastic and figuring out ways to decompose trash. A lot of the trash that was found in the GPGP consisted mainly of fishing nets, which leads to ghost fishing, entangling marine animals in the nets who mistake them for food. This is also caused by the intensity of the fishing effort in Asia. Mr. Boycourt believes that the GPGP may have been formed by circulation of converging winds and currents off of Japan, along with the rip from Japan towards us and the wind blowing from west to east toward the United States. Winds can move buoyant things on ocean surfaces really far in one day. Fishing nets can be moved too, but they are slower and steadier. Surface pollution gets pushed towards gyres, which are the centers of these patches, and everything that gets dumped into the ocean eventually moves together, forming one big patch. He believes that the largest garbage patch is in the Pacific Ocean because it is the largest ocean, so it has the largest supply of garbage and trash, and it is a common disposal of garbage. There are treaties and national laws more prevalent for the Atlantic Ocean and the other oceans. Monsoons and Somali currents are also more prevalent in the Pacific Ocean, which also helps to move the trash together. Convergence is less in other oceans than it is in the Pacific. When asked about other garbage patches forming deep in the ocean where we cannot see, Mr. Boycourt states that trash is seen more on the surface because of their buoyancy. Convergence deep in the ocean are likely. Sinking trash will go to the bottom and won't move as much as they would on the surface because currents below aren't as strong on the surface. This means that trash patches are less likely to form deep in the ocean. When asked about the outlook for the GPGP, he states, "I'm a little worried. How do you get the nations to start spending the money? How do you police the fishing industry if that's our problem in general? We need to recognize that many fishing vessels will be law-abiding, but some will not. How do you keep them from, one, overfishing, and two, how do you keep them from polluting the ocean? Individual countries and international pacts will be needed to enforce stopping pollution together." The main piece of information I pulled from my research and from the interview is that the primary source of pollution in the GPGP are fishing nets and plastic because they are not biodegradable. Sourced from National Geographic, plastic makes up majority of marine debris because of their durability, low cost, and malleability, meaning it's being used more. Sourced from the Ocean Cleanup, 46% of the GPGP's total mass is made of fishing nets. This can lead to ghost nets, which marine animals may mistake for food, often resulting in death from ingestion or drowning. From a National Geographic study conducted in 2018, the accumulation of fishing nets is due to ocean current dynamics and the increased fishing activity occurring in the Pacific Ocean. This is not just an island of ocean debris. The GPGP spans from the coast of California to the coast of Japan, and there are some spots in the ocean where there may be no trash at all, and there are some where there are thousands of pieces of trash. The size of the GPGP is difficult to estimate because of the constant change of ocean currents and winds. Trash has been accumulating in the GPGP since at least 1977. A study conducted by Le Breton and several other people focused on analyzing the GPGP and its contents. They found 50 items with a readable production date, 1 in 1977, 7 in the 1980s, 17 in the 1990s, 24 in the 2000s, and 1 from 2010. Plastic often contains toxic chemicals, and when they break down into smaller pieces, these toxins float in the ocean, affecting marine life. Due to photodegradation, the sun breaks down plastics into tiny, smaller pieces called microplastics, which can be moved all throughout the ocean by currents, wind, and marine life. Microplastics are harder to clean up with nets and trawls, which are used by cleanup effort organizations. There are several cleanup efforts occurring in the U.S. today. The Ocean Cleanup was founded in 2013 by Boy and Slat in the Netherlands. This is a nonprofit organization that helps raise awareness of human pollution in our oceans. Their aim is to have removed 90% of all floating ocean plastic by 2040. They can do so by removing the plastic while it is still in large, whole pieces to prevent it from breaking down into microplastics when it would be harder to clean up. 40 Ocean was founded by Alex Skulls and Andrew Cooper after visiting beaches in Bali, Indonesia in 2015. Their goal was to create new and innovative products, fund a cleanup operation globally, and empower individuals to raise awareness about plastic pollution in the ocean. These two were dedicated to build a company by hiring those in communities heavily impacted by plastic pollution, such as fishermen and boat captains. They would work to recover plastic and debris from rivers, coastlines, and oceans almost every day. They create bracelets and other sorts of jewelry and clothing made from recycled materials to raise awareness about ocean plastic pollution, who I have bought from several times. The money is put towards new efforts for pulling plastic and cleaning the ocean. 40 Ocean recently funded the Vortex Swim, which is where Ben LeCompte set out to free swim the patch to help advance the science of plastic pollution. They have deployed and tracked 40 Ocean GPS buoys and attached them to large pieces of floating plastic to study how they move throughout the ocean and what marine life interacts with it. What we can do as a human society to clean up the oceans ourselves is to use reusable materials such as water bottles, grocery bags, straws, etc. The main thing we can do is to ditch the plastic and recycle. It's easily to recycle by putting your water bottles in the recycling bin rather than in the trash can. What I found interesting about what I can do to help the environment is to ditch the gum, which is made of plastic. I also found it interesting that glitter can make a big difference in the environment, and by using biodegradable glitter, it can reduce pollution in the environment. Avoiding putting plastic in the garbage bin can be helpful to the environment because wind can carry the plastic from landfill to our waterways and eventually into our oceans. These were the sources I used to conduct my research about the GPGP and its cleanup efforts. I would like to thank my professor Allison Barba for her patience and help with this project and always being a message away when I needed it. And also a big thank you to Bill Boycourt for allowing me to interview him and for giving me some insightful knowledge on this important topic.